Welcome to the May 2017 Park City Market Talk webinar. I'm Ron Wilstein, a broker at Keller Williams Luxury Properties, and I have a lot to share with you today. As you are well aware, the ski season is over, and so we're now moving into the summer activities. If you've never been to Park City to take in the hiking and the mountain biking and the Deer Valley concerts, this is the year to do it. That means it's time to tune up your mountain bikes and to get out your water sports toys because we've got lakes very close for you to enjoy. The Park City Resort is going to be reopening for summer activities at the end of this month on May 26th. Zip lines, alpine slides, of course the mountain biking, lots of activity for you to enjoy. Deer Valley will open a little bit later, June 16th, and you can enjoy those activities and more with some horseback riding and of course the Deer Valley concert series that occurs every summer. We're going to cover the Park City real estate market, give you an update on what has been selling and the prices. We're also during that transition period of time in between seasons, which is the key Park City home selling season. I'm going to share with you how you can learn about the market there. And then we're going to spend some time looking at the Park City flood zone and discussing whether your property is located in the flood zone and what implications that may have for you. I've asked my insurance agent, Benita Vandekoy, to join us for the final segment of this webinar. She's with State Farm and she has a lot to say, a lot of good education to impart regarding the flood zones and flood insurance. So without further ado, let's turn our attention to the Park City real estate market. Over the past 12 months, there's been 1,387 sales. This consists of homes, condominiums, and vacant land combined. This is all real estate brokerages combined, and that's 55 more sales, or 4% above last year's number of sales at this time. This graph here breaks down a year-to-year comparison, and I've got three categories: homes, condos, and lots. The red bar represents a period of time from May 2016 through April 2017, and the silver bars represent the year before for those same months. You'll notice with homes that we see an 11% increase in the number of sales, up to 545 sales from 490 the year before. Very strong. Condominium market slightly down 1% from 667 sales the year before to 658. It's only 9 fewer sales, but a 1% decline. And then our lot market has risen by 5% from 175 sales to 184. Again, only 9 more sales, but there are not a lot of sales that occur in the lot market in Park City. Now this graph here does a year-to-year comparison of home sales. This time I've broken it into Park City and the Snyderville Basin, which is a county area of Park City, still within the Park City School District. There's a 14% increase in the number of sales, with 170 this past 12-month period compared to 149 in the city limits the year before. Snyderville Basin saw a 10% bump from 341 sales all the way up to 375 sales. So people are buying Park City real estate. The condominium market is a little bit mixed, actually rose by 8% in the city limits from 305 sales to 328. But in the county area, the Snyderville Basin dropped by about 9% from 362 sales to 330, all in the same ballpark. And I don't want you to look at this graph and say, gee, condos are more popular in the city, Park City, versus the Snyderville Basin. Because if you've been following our webinars, you know that previous months we saw significant increases in the Snyderville Basin, and it was actually slower in Park City. So there's a ebb and flow and a give and take here going on. Here we're looking at vacant land or lots. In the city, there's not that many sales. 26 the year before, 23 this past year. That's for the whole year. And Snyderville Basin, an increase of 8% from 149 to 161 sales over the last year. Average time on the market is about 101 days. That's slightly longer than a year ago. I don't think you can make much of that. It's still in the ballpark. But let's turn our attention to prices, because everyone wants to know what's happening with their property values. And the good news is they continue to go up in Park City. Here we're looking at home medium sold prices during that same period of time that I mentioned. And you can see we're looking at a nice appreciation in the Park City limits of 17%, climbing from the previous median price of $1,528,750 all the way up to $1,790,000. Nice increase. Snyderville Basin up also nicely, single digits, however, 5%, climbing from 923,750 all the way up to 967,500. It's really pushing that $1 million medium price, and I think it's getting a little bit of resistance. That's maybe why you're seeing single digits. Still nice, still very respectable by national standards, but a little bit of a decline. We'll keep an eye on it month to month. Here are the condominiums in the city. They've gone up by 13%, with the median price rising to $685,000 from the previous $605,000, and a nice 19% increase in the Snyderville Basin from $405,000 now up to $482,500. Prices on the rise. And now we're looking at vacant land in the city, down slightly, 3% from $700,000 to $680,000. But remember, it's only 23 sales for the entire year, so I wouldn't make a lot of that. Snyderville Basin, which had many more sales, saw a 12% increase in value from $409,000 to the new medium sold price of $460,000. So that's the Park City real estate market. Strong in terms of number of sales, strong in terms of appreciation, anywhere from 3 to 5% all the way to just under 20%. Now let's transition to the Park City home selling season, because when the snow melts, we go through that transition. That's where we are today, Park City's home selling market. And there's a lot to say about this, and in the next couple months we're going to talk about it a lot. But I thought I would take this opportunity to let you know that now is the time to put your property on the market if you have a single family home in particularly. The best time to sell a property is to take advantage of this selling season. It's between the school year. School hasn't let out yet, but people are online looking at the internet in anticipation of letting out so they can maybe move, buy a new home, and get their kids into the Park City schools for the next school year. So mid-May to mid-June is the ideal time to put your property on the market. So it's now. Now is the right time. If you want to learn what's going on in your market, and of course I just gave you an overview of a lot of statistics on the overall market, you can go to our website, and we have 3, but go to our main one, BuyParkCity.com, and go to the tab Search by Subdivision and to the pull-down menu. In fact, let me just pull this up for you right now. We're looking at ViewParkCityRealEstate.com. This is our main website on the home landing page. You can see the tabs across the top, and if you look under that green button, Watch a Webinar Now, there's the Search by Subdivisions. We've listed a number of the major subdivisions according to the multiple listing service here for you to select from. But if you want to narrow it down to a specific condominium property or a specific neighborhood within those greater neighborhoods, you just type it right in this box and hit Find. But for illustration purposes, let me just choose one. Let's look at Park Meadows. You click on that, and that will take you to this next page, Park Meadows Real Estate. You scroll down a little bit and you come to these buttons here. You'll see the most recent webinar on the Park Meadows neighborhood. You click the green button, you can watch that. We update that about every 6 months. If you want current sales data on Park Meadows, you click that button. Or if you want to search for either homes or condos, choose whichever one you want, and that will shorten the list of the search. Below you'll find properties in Park Meadows, homes, condos, lots, all starting at highest price working downward. But if you know what price range you want to look at, and I'll just say, let's say you own a home and you think it's valued somewhere between $2 million and $2.5 million, you could choose that as a price point, and instead of having 20 or 30 properties to go through, now you have 3. And then you could highlight one of them, choose it, and see the details on that property that's on the market in your neighborhood. And here it is. It's listed for $2,150,000. You got 5 bedrooms, 5 baths, 4,944 square feet. It was built in 1995. And then you can see that in addition to having a description of the property, it's starting to scroll through pictures, and you can inquire about it, request a showing, or just note it. And below there's additional information about that home. You can see that on any property that's listed there, and you can search it in any way that you want. So you can always find out what's on the market in your neighborhood or in your condominium property. With that in mind, you may say, well, that's interesting in terms of what's actively listing listed, but tell me about past sales, recent sales. And all you do to do that is you go to, again, BuyParkCityRealEstate.com and / recent sales, and it will take you to a current sales data form request. Takes you about 30 seconds to fill out. In fact, let me just show it to you. Now you're looking at the current sales data request form, and all you do on this form is put in information, either your property address or the name of your condo, then check the appropriate choices for type of property, number of bedrooms, bathrooms, etc. Then a little bit lower down, you put in your name. Right now it has my name there, and your contact information. Then in the comment box, you simply type in, send me information on closed sales in Pinebrook, or in Park Meadows, or in Jeremy Ranch, or at the Snowflower condo, or whatever it is. Once you've done that, click on the green button, which says submit form, and when you do that, that will come to me, and I'll send you the information by email. It's just that simple, and you can get information on recent sales anytime that you want. Finally, I'll just say that if you want to learn the value of your property, you want to find out what your home or condo is worth, you can simply request a free property value assessment. You can go to that same section and just say, contact me for a property value assessment, and we'll reach out to you and make arrangements to see your property and get you that information. Good time to do it. Act now. Take advantage of that. Our final topic here has to do with flood zones, and what's occurring is that the zone is being adjusted. So I've asked Benita Vanderkoy, who is my State Farm insurance agent, to come in to talk about this subject. She has 25 years of experience in insurance, and particularly has expertise in flood zoning and ongoing changes that are occurring now that may impact you. And so we're going to give you valuable information as well as money-saving tips that might save you thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars. So let's just pause for a moment. We'll bring Benita in, and we're going to continue. Benita, thank you for joining me on this webinar. We're going to look at the topic of flood insurance. Is your Park City property located in a flood zone?
Thanks, Ron. It's nice to be here today.
All right. So the key question is your Park City property located in a flood zone, and what does that mean? And I'll just turn it over to you.
Great. Thanks, Ron. We're going to talk a little bit today about what it means if your property is located in a flood zone. If so, and you have a mortgage on your property, your lender is going to require you to obtain flood insurance in order to obtain that mortgage. Even if your lender does not require flood insurance, there are two good reasons that we've come up with on why you may want to have flood insurance in any case.
That's right. And we're going to share those with you in just a moment. But key question is, or really the issue is some background on why flood insurance is important here.
Correct, Ron. And the reason we're talking about this today is because the flood maps and the flood zones in and throughout Park City and the Summit County area are being redrawn, and certain flood areas are being reclassified. This might look like a very busy map to you, and it is. It's really designed just to show you an overview of the mapping system that FEMA and the NFIP use when they analyze flood-prone areas. We are covering in a more detailed webinar, you'll have more information about this a little bit later in the program, that's going to break this down and show you how to read and how to utilize this map more effectively for your own purposes.
Yeah, the reason I popped up this map is this is actually the Prospector area. And the colors give you an idea of what either is or isn't in a flood zone and any changes. And as Benita mentioned, we've got a webinar goes into much greater detail. So it's a little more of a visual than anything else. But the key thing is that the national flood layer, hazard layer, is being reclassified.
Correct. And the question is to all of you that's listening is obviously, how does that impact me? What does this mean? What does a reclassification of flood zones mean? And there's 4 possible scenarios for your property. Best case scenario is you're not in a flood zone, never have been, and you're not going to be moved into a flood zone. Second situation, of course, is if you're in a flood zone and you're staying in that flood zone. Shouldn't be any big surprises on how you handle that situation, but it is a possibility. And good news, you were in a flood zone, but now you're being removed from that flood zone. So everybody's happy about that. And for the unfortunate people that were not in a flood zone, but now you're going into it. Those are the people that we're really going to be focused on because you're the most heavily impacted in this regard.
Now, if that happens to be you, the first question that comes to mind is, what does it cost to have flood insurance?
Great. And Ron, that's a good question because the cost of flood insurance varies greatly depending on which zone you are. The Zone X classification happens to be the most favorable and consequently the least expensive classification for flood insurance. That could range from $400 to $500 a year. A different zone classification, and we're not going to go into the detail on the different zones, but there are several, could cost you $1,300 to over $3,000 a year, depending on what that zone is that you're in.
Wow, that's quite a difference.
Yes, it's 3 to 6 times the lowest possible rate that's available.
So one of the key things we're going to deal with, not so much in this webinar, but we've actually dedicated our time and energy to a webinar specifically on the flood insurance and the flood zone change. We're going to show you how you can secure, if you're going into a flood zone, that lower rate because you don't want to have to pay 3 to 6 times what you could have done if you got some good advice from us. So we're going to give you that good advice.
And the thing you have to keep in mind is don't wait until the last minute. If you have flood insurance and you sell your home, you're able to transfer the discounted flood insurance to the new buyer. That's why it's important for you to educate yourself on the implications of being moved into that flood zone and acting on the front end of that rather than waiting until later.
So we mentioned earlier that there were 2 good reasons to keep flood insurance, even if you didn't have the requirement from a lender in order to have a mortgage. And peace of mind is one of them. Just the ability to not worry about it, that you could possibly have a flood and you're covered. The other item is that it is a benefit when you go to sell your property, and without going into a lot of detail, again, more that we'll cover in that subsequent webinar that we've recorded for you, is the fact that you can transfer potentially a lower discounted rate to a buyer will give you the ability during negotiations to sell your property for more money, because there is value in that transferability of a discount rate that continues, it's grandfathered in potentially forever. It represents thousands of dollars, possibly tens of thousands of dollars. So that's really important. It's what I like as a realtor, to be able to have that as an incentive to get a higher price for my seller clients. Anyway, why is this important as we wrap up on this topic?
Well, because right now the flood zone remapping is underway. They're expecting to have the completed flood zone maps available August 2017. What we're going to show you in the in the subsequent webinar is going to be the proposed amendments. Then there will be an appeal process that opens. Anyone that's impacted adversely will have 90 days to appeal that decision. Then the NFIP and the city government, the engineering department, they are all going to work through the appeals, and once they've all been resolved, then and only then will an effective date be determined.
So if you want to take advantage of getting the lowest possible rate because you realize in advance of it being permanent that you're going into the zone, the flood zone, then you need to secure that insurance ahead of time.
Correct. You're going to have to get the flood insurance before the effective date, and there's always a waiting period for flood insurance before it will go into effect. So don't wait on this. I encourage you to really act and educate yourself at this point.
Yeah. Due to time, we didn't cover this in a lot of detail. We're really just scratching the surface. But what we are doing and what we have recorded is an in-depth webinar especially dedicated to flood zoning in Park City and flood insurance. Benita is joining us. In fact, she's the guest presenter on that webinar in detail, and she's going to cover everything you always wanted to know and a few extra things on flood insurance, and certainly a way to save yourself some big dollars and to help yourself when you go to sell your property to get more money, because we have the lowest possible rate for your flood insurance if that's applicable to you. You can see here, if you go to viewparkcityrealestate.com/PC flood zone, that will take you directly to that extensive webinar. Check it out. That in mind, thank you for watching this webinar. If you have any questions on any subjects related to Park City real estate, flood insurance, you name it, send me an email at ron@thewilsteinteam.com. If you'd like a call back, please include your phone number and a preferred time, and I'll give you a ring. So with that in mind, thank you for participating in our webinar.